This channel is supported by TrueFire. TrueFire is an online library of lessons from some of my favourite players. There's thousands of lessons on there. You can use the promo code JNC40 to get 40% off of any of their courses. Ugly guitars need love too, right? And so, is there a type of guitar out there for you that you think I wouldn't be caught with my pants down playing that? For me, when I first found out about Kine guitars in particular, this is the Delmare model, which is a little bit less classically inspired than their other models. This is a guitar that they sent me about last year, Chris did, and the Springfield is obviously their Strat model, which for me, the Strat, I think, might be one of the prettiest guitars ever made. Then they've got the Truxton model, which is their Telecaster model. And the Telecaster, I think, is a really clean, simple design. They've got the Jazzmaster style, which they call, or he calls, can't remember. And then this is the Delmare. So I guess, I don't know, do you think that qualifies as an ugly guitar or not? So for me, this is Charcoal Frost, which is one of my favourite colours. But I guess ugly for me is another word as well for maybe non-conventional. So it's as well as being an intensely personal thing. So for me, red guitars are one thing that I really aesthetically, for some reason, don't get on with. I think I quite like blue, I quite like white, I quite like black, I quite like grey. I had Sharif in my DMs on Instagram calling or saying you gig or you play a yellow guitar all the time, as if that was a crime. So my Springfield, which I quite like the colour of that guitar, like it's sort of, yeah, that kind of vintagey yellow. I like that, but I guess that might be a little bit vanilla, a little bit controversial. For me, I don't really like sunburst guitars either. Yeah, I guess really unconventional stuff like BC Richards. I used to really crave a Warlock because I used to think that was a really cool looking guitar, and I was kind of into Slipknot at the time. Looking back, of course, that would have been probably quite a handful to play, and as well as being not necessarily appropriate to take into a church, which I was playing in a church, at the time growing up. So that could have been fun. Ibanez RGs as well. I guess a few people kind of find those headstocks kind of ugly. I really like, in general, quite a lot of what Ibanez do, especially like the AZ for a modern guitar. I think they really nailed some stuff with that in terms of getting a pretty awesome looking guitar. But ugly guitars, if you've got your favourite ugly guitars, leave them in the comments. Women have different views on this as well, in my experience. So my wife, Leanna, grew up playing in bands as well. She really likes the aesthetics of PRS guitars, where I think those are controversial on two counts, one being the headstock and the other being the birds. And then I guess as well, some people just don't really like the aesthetic of like overly flamed tops or quilted tops. Quilted tops I don't really like either. For some reason, I think it kind of looks a bit like furniture. And I think I got quite overexposed to the like vibes of quilted tops from Carvin back in the day, when they used to make the DC stuff. I think something about it to me just looks a little bit over the top. She doesn't like Strats particularly, and she thinks Les Pauls kind of look old, which is, weird to me because I think a Les Paul looks super, super pretty. But yeah, ugly guitars, would you give them a go? I think, yeah, that's another thing. The kind of Art Deco style, like the D'Angelico's that had the really aggressive stair step stuff and like over the top gold hardware. Gold hardware in and of itself is kind of controversial. Those kind of things I find a little bit odd sometimes. Maybe even like crazy inlays might be a suggestion. Like the vine, the Tree of Life, I think is pretty controversial. And the gem guitar. I gigged this guitar over the weekend. And honestly, I really, 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 really enjoyed gigging it. And why wouldn't you? Because actually, beauty is more in like how it plays and sounds. I find, and it sounds great. It looks different, and that's the thing. Like, to some extent, I think people are attracted to something that looks a little bit unusual. So if I turn up with a Strat to most gigs, people just know what it is, or assume they know what it is. If I turn up with this, it kind of looks a bit different, a bit interesting. People are like, oh, what's that? Different shapes. Or, maybe they don't notice at all. But sounds great, plays great. This is a Kine delmare. I'm trying to think of other guitars that I've kind of gigged. I've got a PRS DGT SE, which I guess some people might kind of think of as ugly, but I think generally people look at that guitar and think it looks pretty decent. But an SG for me, a red guitar, those are things that I just cannot fathom really playing. Flying V's for me, Explorers kind of sit on this list as well. Are there some things for you that you just, the eye test doesn't pass, so you can't really see yourself playing it? I guess for me, definitely there is. I'm shallow like that. I'd like to know your thoughts. And should we give these things a try, or is it okay to be kind of put off by the looks of something? I guess a lot of kind of gear stuff is based on how something looks as much as anything else, right? These things generally tend to sound pretty similar, right? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I was using the Eric Lee 2023 preset for that little bit of isolation earlier. And then earlier I was using the Glassy Plexi presets 2024. Jump into the Gumroad folder if you want to try those for your Helix Native, Helix. I've also done them for Kemper now as well, and Podgo. So, everyone's a winner. Cheers.